morning, everybody. It is the 13th of November, and I'm delighted to be joined this morning by Graham Sleep. Graham is from Sunderland, and Graham, I hope you don't mind. I'm just going to read out a few because you've got a very long CV here. So, yeah. Consultant with improvement architecture, business problem solver, Lean Six Sigma Master Black Belt, talent leader and developer, a Marshall Goldsmith coach, and you've worked, we were just talking, you've worked in Asia, you've worked in the United States, worked with the local university in Sunderland, and a board member with the Young Enterprise Group. Yes, so a whole host of things, Graham. Yeah. So really appreciate you coming here today to speak with us for a few minutes. Thank you very much indeed. So Graham, could you just, in a nutshell, could you just tell us exactly what is your job role?
Yeah. So, you know, I now have two companies. So the first one was in improvement architecture, which I'm now CEO of. That's me real sort of day job, if you want to put it that way. That it was set up really to help business improvement. You know, so around the Lean Six Sigma side, obviously, which I'm a Master Black Belt in. Yeah. That's a company based in Scotland and really was aimed at the oil and gas sector, amongst other engineering and manufacturing sectors, so aerospace, automotive, etc. So that's where we've worked mainly over the last 4 years. Then the second company we've just set up, and that was really because of models we've started developing in improvement architecture around business growth. So one of the key things that we've noticed going around companies is it's hard sometimes to measure the business growth. So we've developed measurable business growth models. Yeah. And then out the back of that, the Marshall Goldsmith program, the reason for that, to align with that, is because I don't believe you can really develop global businesses without having global leaders. You know, that's what I've learned probably over my career. And I think now it's quite different because a lot of the work that goes on in leadership development, etc., is around almost developing local leaders or at a plant level, or you know, as opposed to a global business and having the global context culturally, you know, having the technological savvy you now need because obviously it's getting quicker.
And for we were talking this morning, weren't we, about our students having those big dreams, the big aspirations in that respect.
Yeah, certainly what we've said in what we've looked at, and the words we often use in terms of our year growth is in terms of, you know, we work with people who've got ambition, but that develops a purpose which gives them the drive to really want to fulfill that ambition. Yeah. You know, and that has to be crystallized with them. So, you know, it's not just something where, you know, oh well, it's like you can't have a laissez-faire attitude to this. You know, there has to be, you know, this is where we're going and this is what we're doing.
Some sort of strategy to get there.
Some form of strategy in order to take you from where you are now to that point.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I mean, it's a really interesting. I think it's a really interesting job that you do. And I know you've been speaking with a few of our students here this morning, who, as I was saying and as we were saying, you wouldn't necessarily think, oh, I'm going to go to university and when I leave I'm going to be a coach. So could you tell us a little bit about just how you've sort of fallen into that area? Yeah,
well, I started off as in engineering. So, you know, when I left school, I actually ended up as an electronic engineer. From there, I then moved more into management, up to being into senior management on a corporate basis. And then, really, what I realised, I ended up in the States with that. So, you know, after doing a number of successful projects, mainly around automotive, ended up in the States, and that was probably where my ambition started being crystallised. Right. You know, personally, as opposed to, it was almost at that point, almost an ongoing career, just evolved. Yes. But at that point, and certainly when I came back from the States, the interesting point was nobody would give us a job when I came back from the States. So I just helped build a company up to 300 million from 30 million, and people were just scared off by the numbers.
So too good.
Yeah. Plus it was in the States. It was sort of out of sight, you know, type of thing. So I ended up taking on a much smaller company just to prove that what worked in a big gut structure could work in a smaller structure. Yeah. So they were 1.8 million, took them to 5.5 million in 3 years, you know, and that was when I really realised what I did very well was to be either a business problem solver or the ability to visualise, you know, and come up with a vision, you know, and a strategy therefore of how we get from A to B.
And that's your forte.
And that probably is where I sit. Yeah.
Right. Okay. And with regard to that, you'll obviously be working with a lot of entrepreneurs on a global basis. More locally, it's Global Entrepreneurship next week. Yeah. Global Entrepreneurship Week next week. Yeah. We at school, we've got, amongst our 4 schools, we've got a sort of a Dragon's Den scenario going on, if you will. Could you maybe tell us and maybe give the students a little bit of advice with regards to the types of people that should form any group that they're creating?
I think it's interesting because one of the big issues with whenever companies go to investment panels, you know, is one of the key things the investors generally look for is how solid the management team is. You know, now for me, there's almost 4 types of people you have in an organisation. You have the entrepreneur who's come up with the idea. You have leaders who can actually drive that idea forward and take it forward. Yeah. You've then got an expert who may be providing the technical expertise or whatever's required to fulfil that that idea. But then you've also then got people who do. You know, and I almost say that there's these 4 areas that you need to have to be successful.
Quite discrete areas.
Quite discrete areas with different skills and characteristics.
Right, okay. So any students watching this, make sure that your teams have got those key characteristics within the successful group. Okay. And another thing we've got, Graham, next week is I'm taking some students to the Bank of England competition. Okay. They'll be meeting with not Mark Carney on this occasion, but they'll be meeting with the Bank of England's Northern agent. Right, and to present to them and so on. You'll obviously have a lot of contact with private sector in the UK and so on. How would you describe, obviously we've come through the deepest recession in post-war history, how would you describe business confidence and sentiment at the moment?
I think overall across the UK it is more positive than it's been. Certainly if you look over the last 18 months, I would say. You know, I think however, certainly with the steel closures, that's certainly affecting on our doorstep and also in Scotland, which obviously is a big market for us. That creates certain problems with different people in certain supply chains positions, because you know in areas such as oil and gas where you might have the challenge of, you know, there's having to be cost downs in order to achieve the sort of new barrel price. At the same time as you've got steel shortages, which obviously will up price for certain people in that supply chain. So you've got companies like that who are going to struggle at the moment. But I think one of the key thing is the more people get pushed to the point of almost to become disruptive, right? And there's a lot of people now starting to position themselves to be more disruptive in the markets they're in. And that's going to be an interesting thing to watch over the next sort of probably 5 years. Because what you can see now, and as you know, I coach a couple of young entrepreneurs who are doing very well, and what you found, the way they think is they're looking for these seams that are probably quite radical for companies that have sat in marketplaces for years to actually see. Unless you map the whole supply chains out and things like that, and you don't quite see these seams that exist. And now that's what a lot of younger guys are starting to see.
Right. So which is good news, isn't it?
Yeah, it's excellent. And I think the other thing we have to be careful of, though, in this, certainly in the United Kingdom, is in terms of the north-south divide aspect of it. Okay. You know, and northern powerhouse sounds great on paper.
Sounds great, doesn't it? Yeah.
But how does that really impact, you know, Mr. Business owner? You know, who are the people who are giving people jobs and coming up with the ideas that we talk about?
Right. We, of course, Graham, at school, we'd like to think that we've got a number of really successful entrepreneurs here. he'll go on to do great things, I'm sure. Is there anything that you can think of, just from your vast experience in this area, things that schools maybe could be doing to sort of,
I think,
but don't?
Yeah, I think we sort of touched on earlier there, ambition. You know, ambition is a key thing. I think certainly in the northeast, if I look at it, there's often not the confidence to really look at, you know, a great vision, a great ambition, and go, actually, you know what, that's attainable. Mm-hmm. We always want to talk ourselves down or talk ourselves out of it.
Yeah.
You know, and I was the same as everybody else with that. Mm-hmm. You know, until I went to the States, probably. You know, and I think it's important for us to, you know, to really just follow what are probably the dreams early doors. You may not have all the answers, but there's plenty of people to ask and get support from.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's what's important. Don't look at it and say, well, we can't do it. Look at it and say, well, what's the way that we can do it?
Yeah. Have a can-do approach.
Have a can-do approach to it. You know, and I think also be prepared to travel and understand different cultures, and start thinking in terms of global business models, not local small businesses. Even. Yeah, I think there has to be that aspiration to develop a big business, not just about I'm going to develop, you know, a very small business.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting, Graham. And I think even when we think of our sixth form here and where they go to university, it often is the local universities that don't sort of go any further afield than that. So you know, you've heard it from an expert, ladies and gentlemen. So so I think, just in view of the time, I think we're going to maybe just wrap it up on that, and hopefully maybe in the future we could possibly get another one of these going and maybe continue. Right.
No problem
at all. Thank you very much for your time today, Graham. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.